Hafeez has not betrayed the red pill. He just won't follow it to hell.
Let's go.
Yo, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Becoming Rob. This is the channel where you can follow me on my journey to where I'm trying to become the best version of myself. Today, we're going to be talking about Hafeez of the Roommates and his recent interviews that I have been seeing all over YouTube. Everybody has been taking their chunk out of Hafeez. And I guess I am too today, but I'm going to come from a little bit of a different angle. Before I get in it too far, please go ahead and like this. Go ahead and subscribe. Remember, I'm coming to you live every morning, 5:30 a.m. from the West Coast, okay? Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. from the West Coast, the left coast, the best coast, every morning. So you can just set your calendars. If you're up at this time, come meet with me. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can get better. Today, we're going to be looking at Hafeez and his interviews, particularly his interview on the SOS podcast, on the Valuetainment YouTube channel. I'm going to go ahead and link to it down there. Go ahead and click that link and then follow the Valuetainment channel. They got a lot of good stuff over there. That's Patrick Bet David. Okay, Hafeez is on the SOS podcast. He is on there with Coach Greg Adams. Coach Greg Adams is a leader in the red pill space, doing his thing. Maybe I'll link to Coach Greg Adams as well. Listen, there's a lot of good information out there, a lot of good content creators. I encourage you to go ahead and check them out, like and subscribe. Man, it's good to take in all of these things. But now Hafeez has really pushed in these two interviews, one on the SOS podcast, and he was also on with Jess Pearly. He's really, maybe this was his goal. He's really forced a consideration of the nuance and the end of red pill philosophy. And they say, oh, it's not an ideology, it's a praxeology, it's just a way to live. Listen, you have to first decide how you want to live. You first have to decide how you should live before you start living. And so, yes, these are ideas and philosophies that have some sort of worldview, especially when it comes to the interaction of men and women. There is an underlying belief here. There is an underlying understanding. And listen, if I was to describe myself, since coming into red pill content, I would describe myself as red pill. I would describe myself as red pill. However, the question is, and Hafeez is pushing this to the forefront, is there a place for marriage in the red pill? That's the question Hafeez is forcing everybody to answer. And so far, the way he's been treated on these channels and on YouTube in the past couple of weeks is the answer is no. There is no room for marriage within the red pill. And maybe that's why people like Hafeez and others have a hard time describing themselves as red pill, because they believe in marriage. And you'll hear the stat, 50%, is the end in divorce. She could take your money. She could take your kids. Facts. Facts. She could take your money. She could take, and so you hear the argument, well, it's not about marriage per se. It's the marriage is the way we practice marriage currently. Is the state of marriage today. Listen, we can rail against no-fault divorce. We can rail against the impact of what birth control has done. We see all the factors throughout history that have had a deleterious effect on marriage. What it seems like in the past couple weeks, and Hafeez has brought this to the front, is that the red pill space, YouTube is a lovely space because it has given men a voice. And it seems like what the creators, what the leaders of this red pill space has said, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. I'm just, it's just so messed up. The game is so messed up. I just refuse to play. Now there are some implications. That's fine. Let's not act like that's not the underlying argument of the red pill. And if it is the underlying argument, let's just say that up front. And shout out to, you have different movements like the Passport Bros and MGTOW. They're upfront about it. They're upfront about it. I just not gonna play the game. And if I am gonna play the game, I'm gonna play it overseas. Let's be upfront about it. But Hafeez has been treated. Hafeez is being treated like he's nuts, and partially is because Hafeez has been so passionate in his interviews. Is that it's easy to cut up the clips and make them look insane. And I'm going to be, in corporate America. I'm an engineer. They do the the compliment sandwich, right? Yes, we like Hafeez. We think he's done a lot. He's done a lot for the red pill space. I think he's going through an evolution though because of some of the things he's realized. I'll get into that. I'll show a couple clips. Hafeez is going through a change. So shout out to Hafeez. Very good content. Years of content. Years of good content. Now I will be critical of him. He's trying to get a message out there. This was not the best way to do it. And what I mean by not the best way to do it, it is great to go on these podcasts. It's great to have these conversations, but you have to. And this is a lesson. I try to have lessons for young men. Try to have lessons for young men on my channel. You have to present your case as calmly and as clearly as possible. And that's where I would have to criticize Hafeez. Very passionate, nothing wrong with that. But I was just talking about this at church on Sunday. Shout out to all the churchgoers. Shout out to all the believers um and non-believers. We love you all. But shout out to all the believers that showed up this past Sunday. I was just talking about this at church, talking about passions. Passions are things that uh, push you and can often push you in an irrational manner. And in today's context, when we talk about passions, we tell people to, hey, follow your passion. It's good to be passionate about X, Y, and Z. But in previous understandings of the word passion, your passions were meant to be controlled. Your passions were meant to be bridled. Your passions were meant to be serviced with temperance. You had to know how to handle your passions. And here, Hafeez has a passion for the red pill space and how it understands marriage, how it promotes or does not promote marriage. It's okay to be passionate. You have to control your passions, especially when you're trying to get your point across, and especially when you are in a debate format. It's a little bit informal. It's on a podcast. Shout out to the Sos because I think he did a good job of sort of delegating the the debate and really giving both men a chance to talk. I guess I'll have to hit Hafeez on that as well. Hafeez knows how to, I guess, because he's been doing podcasts for so long, he knows how to go on, and so you know, state your point, be clear. This is a lesson for young men as you watch Hafeez. Be clear, control your passions, let the chips fall where they may. People are going to disagree. You feel that you're telling the truth, then let time be the arbiter of your truth. Those who are proclaiming the truth, those who understand reality in a right manner, in a right context, reality will play out and it will show you who is telling the truth. And I think we're seeing that. And so let me finish the compliment sandwich for Hafeez. Um, shout out to shout out to Hafeez for bringing this to the forefront. Rather, even in these past couple of weeks, he's forcing the red pill space to answer the question of is there a space for marriage inside the red pill context? And so far, that answer is no. And that's fine. The problem is so many of the young men that are gravitating toward the red pill space, the red pill community, they want to be married. And Hafeez knows this. He meets with young men all the time. They want to be married. It's not enough. You can't remove that desire from them. Here it is. They're in this red pill space. You're explaining to them all the possible things that can go wrong with marriage. And yet they walk away. They say it's true. Man, I see women act like this. I understand the reality of how women are, how they treat men, how society has set them up to have less accountability. He walks away. He goes home. He goes to sleep at night. And then he thinks about that young lady and he wants to be married. What does the red pill space offer him? What does the red pill space offer the young man who wants to be married? Now, let me get to the clips. Now, I'm I'm monologuing. You caught me. You know, like when the bad guys on the Incredibles. It's like you caught me monologuing. I'm monologuing. I want to get to the clips. How long where I'm at? 13 minutes. Thank you for joining me. Go ahead and click the like button. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. If this is a good conversation you want to join every morning, Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. Let's go to the clips. Let's go to the clips. The first clip. Now, the clips that have been making the rounds is the clips of Hafeez talking about the truth and talking about God. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Hafeez does look crazy in those contexts. Those are the easy clips to play to get the people riled up. One author said you're ginning up the people. Hafeez does look crazy in that because I was struggling to understand where does God come in on this discussion. Listen, he's talking to a Christian. And then they got into the understanding and belief of God. I'll do a podcast on why I believe in God and why I find the Christian religion to be the area in which God has manifested himself. That's another podcast for another day. But yeah, I think Hafeez looks wild in that in that clip, and that's the clip that's making the rounds, right? And I think he's arguing a point that's obvious. Yes, Hafeez believes that God is a part of his marriage, but there's a conflation of ideas between he and Coach Greg Adams. Coach Greg Adams is talking about the institution of marriage as it exists as a governmental institution. There is no God in marriage. Facts. Facts. I signed that paper. I signed that paper with my wife. There ain't nothing on that paper about God. And I recognize that that paper comes with legal implications. And I'm even more aware of those legal implications now that I'm 38, moving on to 39, than I was when I was 28. So I recognize that yes, there is some risk there. But I also think that the argument of risk does not it's not only monetary, right? Obviously there's a legacy idea, and sometimes legacy is associated with, well, it's not just materialistic, especially when you're talking about kids, and then it's not just materialistic, especially when you consider uh, from the woman's standpoint, especially for a woman like my wife who has not worked for 10 years, who has not worked for uh, this since she was 23. Now she's 33. She has not worked. That's a risk. That's a risk. Maybe one day I will be unhappy and not want to do this no more. That's a risk for her. And that's a topic for another time. But you understand what I'm saying. Um, Here, let Hafeez say it in his own words. I'm going to try to play a couple clips that show that show Hafeez not to be crazy, where he's trying to make his point. I think these are his overarching points, but because he is so passionate, he does a bad idea of presenting them. And then oftentimes you can see he's trying to convince the people. And Coach Greg Adams has been doing this too long. He's been divorced. Sosa's been divorced on the podcast as well. They recognize how much of a struggle it is. You're not going to convince them. Make your point. The people that you are convincing are the people that are watching, and they want to see you present your argument in a concise manner. And I'm going to try to do that a little bit later. I'm going to try to point to some of the thoughts and implications of the red pill space and ideology and philosophy, and what's the implications on society if men are to drink this Kool-Aid, so to say. Let's go to the clubs. Hafiz is making a point here. Let's see.
Any truth in it? Yes, if you, like my dad told me a very powerful point. I love my father. He's such a wise older man. He said the most important decision you'll ever make in your life is the one you marry. Yeah. And it can go one of two ways. Mm-hmm. And this is what I want the guys to understand. We're not teaching naivete, which is, oh, marriage is this perfect thing, and you just meet the one and live happily ever after, and there's no issues, and there's no divorces. Right. We're not teaching naivete. Marriage can be the worst thing in your life. It can be an absolute living hell, and I guarantee you, you can go for days and and you know so many different stories about people with marriage is an absolute living hell. But we don't want to teach being naive about the realities, but also we don't want to teach nihilism. Right, the other end of the extreme. Marriage is the worst thing possible, and women are out to get your money, and everyone's miserable, and everybody's roommates, and everybody's this. Because there are some individuals, as Alex communicated, who are in happy, healthy long-term marriage, right? So you don't want to be naive, you want to be nihilistic, you want to be as real as possible.
Okay. What's wrong with that statement? What's wrong with that statement? It's facts. It's facts. Listen, I love the fact that marriage is most times associated with this stat. I ain't looked it up. I ain't done no research. I ain't done no I ain't done no research. I come to you live in the morning. I roll out of bed. I get dressed. I got a little bit dressed for here. Let me bring myself up here. Got a little bit dressed for you this morning. I roll out of bed, and then I come and talk to you guys. So I love that marriage is associated with this 50% stat. And we only focus on the negative side of the 50%. You have if the stat is 50%, I don't know, let's say it is. That's what everyone's quoting. If the stat is 50%, then you have just as much chance of making it work. You have just as much chance of ending in disaster as you have of making it work. And so many so many young men are not afraid to take risk. And I know we all, and especially when you're a young man, you think, oh, it's not going to be me. And so the point being, it's okay. It's a risk. You have just as much a chance of making it work as it ended in disaster. Hafiz is saying, why don't we talk about the the type of people who are making it work? The type of men who have made it work and the type of women who have made it work. Why are we not talking about? I promise you, I haven't done the research, but I bet my 401k on it that 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 there are commonalities between the type of men and women who make marriage work, and there are commonalities between the type of men and women that where marriage ends in divorce. I guarantee you, by sampling that population of people who have made marriage work, you will find commonalities between those men and women. There are some qualities, there are some behavioral practices, there are some philosophies, there are some things about those men and women that they have developed, whether by nature or by nurture. There's something about them to where they have made marriage work. Why are we not examining those qualities and promoting those qualities and behavioral practices to young men and women? We love train wrecks. We love talking about the negative part. And this is the point Hafiz is going to make too. I'm going to bring up the next clip. The negative points get clicks. It's profitable. And this, I think, is what sparked Hafiz's turn. It is not that Hafiz is not red pill. He probably agrees, and I know he agrees. He has too many videos agreeing with the red pill space, agreeing with the red pill ideology, promoting it to young men and using it to hold young women accountable. But he has a problem with when he switches to the other side and says, this is how you become a better man, and this is how you can be married and stay married. He can't get the clicks. You guys won't click on this video. I know you're not gonna click on my video. Shout out to my channel. We holding it down with 4 subscribers this morning. Go ahead and like and subscribe. He can't get the clicks. You won't click on the video. I'm gonna go to the clip. Um, got a few more minutes here. Let's go to the next clip of Hafiz, and I think he here is really, you can see his transition. He's going to talk about, I think, what sparked his transition and making sure, and him wanting to go on this sort of crusade, so to say, to be religious about it, go on this crusade to what he describes as bringing balance to the space.
My content will be weak if it's imbalanced. So I like to do as balanced as possible. I did a video a couple months ago called the Why Women Today Are Not Married. I did that video talking about some of the principles that I believe are true, why women have issues, and go on that for days. That video did over 500,000 views in 2 weeks. I did another video called The Sad Reality of Beautiful Women, talking about how sometimes attractive women have an air of entitlement about themselves that makes them difficult in relationship. Another video, 500,000 views. The reality of the matter is, in that month alone, I told the guys in the standard, I'm just being transparent and honest. with those 2 videos, and then Candace Owens coming on the podcast talking about the problems with modern women, we made $55,000 that month. 55,000 just doing a few videos. And I know almost everybody in the space, and everyone shows me their money. And I was making the least of what everybody else is making. But when I do the other content, Adam, the more balanced content, there's not clicks in it. There's not views in it. What type of content? Like let's say I was do a video about, hey guys, here are signs, like let's say 5 things to pick in a wife.
All right. So there you see it. I think that realization is what caused Hafeez to make this pivot. This is what caused him to make that pivot. And I think he's probably always been a believer in marriage and promoted it for young men. But he's seen the reality of it in the numbers. He's seen the reality of it in the numbers, and he stopped and asked himself, what am I doing? My goal is to develop young men and make them better men, which will make them better husbands. But the way they consume my content makes it seem like there is no place for marriage. They love holding women accountable. They shy away. They won't click on the videos that hold them accountable, that are there to make them better. Maybe everything maybe everything that's wrong, maybe a lot of what's wrong, the majority of what's wrong with marriage and relationships is in women's court. And because I agree, it has been so lopsided over the previous decades. A woman's voice has been amplified and her issues have been amplified, and it has drowned out the needs and concerns of men. Shout out to the godfathers of the red pill space. Shout out to YouTube for allowing this kind of content to come to the forefront. We now have a voice. We now have some power. The question is, what are we going to do with it? That's what Hafeez is asking. The truth has come to the forefront. Men have issues. We need help. Marriage and divorce is a disaster for men. There are men who are miserable inside their marriage. There are men who are miserable after their divorce. They fight for their kids. They have much of their income taken from them. One of the worst and deleterious things that can happen to a man's wealth is divorce. We have issues, but now that our issues have come to the forefront, how are we going to make it better? That's the question Hafeez is asking. Are we here just to promote the issues? Are we here just to raise a voice to our concerns? Or are we here to make things better? And this has been a solution I have often heard, not only in marriage space, but in the corporate space, in education space. We look at places that have the results that we want. When I'm at work and a team does well, oh man, that's it. There is like a deep dive study into a team, into a project, into a program that has done well, and all the other programs extract those nuggets. It's like, how did you do that? How did you catch up to the schedule? How did you stay on budget? Boom, 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 we did this. And everybody takes those lessons and they take it back to their program. They take it back to their projects. Why? Because they want to stay on budget. They want to stay on schedule. You see it in education. Why are the kids in this classroom doing better than the kids in the other classroom? What techniques is this teacher using that this teacher is not? Let's take the techniques that the teacher has gotten results with and let's apply them to the other class and see if we can get the same results. It's not an unfair question to ask. I'm running out of time. I'll ask them a few more things that these are implications of this argument. Oftentimes you hear in the red pill space of how divorce impacts young children. You hear how, especially in the black community, this broken families, this fatherlessness is leading to the degeneracy of the black community. Is the family unit what's best for a given society, for a given community? We must answer that question. If the family unit is what's best for the thriving of a given community, then as we come into these truths and we promote them to others, we must think about how it gets us to that ideal. I agree that these red pill issues must be brought to the forefront, but they must be brought to the forefront in a way that gets us back to that ideal goal. Our children need fathers and mothers. Our community needs family units, husbands and wives. We all know it's better in a situation with a bunch of happily married people. We all know a community. You want to know the strength of community is strength of community is how many successful marriages are in that community. How many kids are being raised in the atmosphere of a successful marriage. That's the strength of a community. That's the health of a community. So this is what we listen. You're gonna hear it on maybe not on this one, but on a different one. Maybe you'll hear the red pill influence that the community has had on me, and I appreciate it. I love what I have learned. Shout out to Kevin Samuels and Rollo Tomasi, and I watch even Coach Greg Adams a little bit. The roommates. Um, I don't really mess with Fresh and Fit as much, but I consume the content. However, these are questions that we must ask because it really does speak to the viewers. It speaks to the viewers. A lot of young men want to be married, and shout out to the lead attorney. You know, um, he's talked about Hafeez as well. Man, I probably got to do another one of these. Yeah, I do a reaction to Hafeez, and then I need to do a reaction to the reactions on Hafeez. Because did he represent himself well? No, he probably didn't represent himself the best he could. But he's asking some real questions that the red pill community needs to answer. Is there a place for marriage? Is marriage what's best for the community? If so, how does the red pill teaching, praxeology, ideology, how does it help? Because maybe the answer the red pill community is giving is that no, marriage is not what's best for the community. No, marriage is not what's best for children. I find, and I'm gonna end with this because I find much of the arguments that have led to the rise of feminism is exactly what the opposite is being promoted amongst the red pill. At the foundation of feminism is a materialism and an extreme individualism, one that raises the self up above the community, and one that focuses on material gain. Those two foundational principles of feminism are in the red pill space. Take care of yourself above all else and get that money. Get to the bag. I don't know. What about legacy? Is there Do we have other moral duties beside those to ourselves? And is is all that we're doing a quest for more wealth? Are we to live like children all of our life? Yeah, maybe men survive better being single later in life. Yes, I do believe women are better off and protected inside of a healthy marriage. And it's harder for women when they're alone later in their years. But it's not all as cracked up to be uh, being old and alone as a man as well. And maybe I'll tell my story. But I have a father who left my mother, and he is old right now. And if I take a picture of how he's living, I can show you what it looks like to be single all your single all your life. And I guarantee you, how my father is living now is not how you want to live. But that's a podcast for another day. Go ahead. If this conversation helped you, go ahead and like and subscribe. So many more ideas, man. I got to go upstairs and take care of my kids. I hope you do the same. I will see you tomorrow, 5:30 a.m.
Let's go.